For another read aloud. Today it'll be an excerpt from Madness in Wonderland.
I want to talk about books, the book, biblical fiction books, free books, book giveaways, reviews on books, my books, my dog Freeway, people who write books. I'm Naomi from naomicraig.com. Follow me and we'll talk about books.
I just had a fantastic interview with Tabitha Bouldin over on Behind the Story. And with Tabitha Bouldin, her next book coming out is Lost in Wonderland, which isn't even out yet. So it will be just a little sneak peek to get you into the land and the story. And so you will be ready and prepared for Lost in Wonderland when that releases. I will link the show over to Behind the Story in the comments below. Be sure to enter in. Tabitha is offering a giveaway. So here is Madness and Wonderland. I actually got this, and it was given, or we picked it in print, and my daughter has read it. It is Alice in Wonderland, steampunk, and Frankenstein monster mashup. So it's a lot of fun. So here is Madness in Wonderland by Tabitha Bouldin. Beyond Wonderland, Book 1. Chapter 1. Alice. There should be a law that says no arrests before tea. The ship gave a violent roll, dumping Alice from her bunk before she had the chance to gather her wits. What should have been a short drop seemed to last forever, as the Wonder continued to tip her starboard tip. Alice finally landed on the worn boards with a hearty thud, sending a jolt of pain through her shoulder. She twitched one eyelid open, bringing a rabbit's white hair and human face into focus as he bounced around her tiny cabin and tapped his pocket watch that never left the gold chain tucked deep in his waistband. "Wake up, Alice! Fox says we're nearly there!" His oversized front teeth caused a whistle to cut between some of the words. Wind whipped through the open porthole. She'd forgotten to close it last night, and a deep grinding sounded from the engine's gears. The crew's steps thundered against the boards that made up her ceiling as they scrambled to turn Wonder into the wind. Puffs of steam rolled across the sky, the jets of white competing against the clouds for dominance. What she wouldn't give to have an airship. Much as she loved the Wonder, adventure across Wonderland would be ever so much quicker floating among the clouds. Rabbit bounced and tapped again, causing the goggles dangling around his neck to crack against his sharp chin. Clean-shaven, he resembled a young boy with vim and vigor. Rabbit was nothing if not meticulous. "Settle down. I'll be there before the teapot whistles." Rubbing her eyes and yawning, Alice reached for her gun belt and managed to strap it around her waist while rolling from the floor and onto her feet. A trio of gears on her corset snagged and pulled in protest until she tugged her bunched muslin shirt from the small of her back and smoothed the ruffles over her chest. "It's not as though we're in a rush. We've all the time in Wonderland." Gathering her gold cabin key in her left palm, she clenched a miniature bottle in her right. The letters had worn away from the frosted blue glass long ago, leaving behind an obscene "drink me" in what used to be "first I took a drink, then the drink took me." Her father's talisman warmed her palm. Too bad the warning hadn't been enough. A sharp whistle cut through the air. "Tea time." I hope Hatter made cake. "It's not your birthday, and Hatter doesn't make cake. Honestly, Alice, you're acting rather unusual this morning." "I'm rather unusual every morning." Curling his nose, Rabbit rocked on the heels of his high-knee boots while tucking his thumbs into the red sash wrapped around his waist. "You should check in with Dr. Stein before tea. He's counting on you to track down the monster." "He's not a monster, Doc. Says he's our age. He's human. For pity's sake, we'll probably find him hiding in a cave eating berries." She sat long enough to yank her boots on, pulling them over her powder blue trousers, before she clapped her hands on her waist and rubbed her thumbs on the wood and copper gun grips. He can't possibly be as bad as all that. I don't know, Alice. A man can do a lot of damage in 10 years. Look at all we've done. Doc's men could do even more if he's having rages from that experiment. Doc says. Alice swiped a hand through the air. Doc says, Doc says. It's all about what Doc says these days. I, for one, will wait until we get this monster on board where we can get straight answers before I pass judgment. We are not knaves. We are pirates in opposition to the crown, not dim-witted automatons. You are going to get us in trouble again, aren't you? Rabbit shook his head and backed out of the cabin. Dr. Frank N. Stein is world-renowned for his experimental medicine. If he says this one went bad, I've a mind to believe him. I don't have time to argue. Queen Heart sent another ship. They caught up at sunrise. We're to capture Doc's monster and return him to the Red Rose without delay. And why was Doc putting weird chemicals into him in the first place? I imagine being experimented on like some sort of beast, no doubt at Hart's orders. Alice twisted the gold key into the door's lock before she stomped down the corridor, passing locked door after locked door. They might be a tight crew, but no one really believed their favorite brutes wouldn't disappear if the chance arose. Her hand tightened around the bottle she shoved into her pocket. It's not right. Don't care if she's the queen. Stuff and nonsense. They could at least tell us what they want, why they want him. What good is one man? Her indignation stoked. Alice warmed to the subject. She strapped her goggles over her head and stomped. I've been known to believe more than 6 impossible things before breakfast, but this one is beyond me. No one dares to go against her. Rabbit snagged Alice's arm, pulling her back before her boot landed on the first step leading up to the deck. You're angry at her, but there's nothing you can do. Even you have to admit there are things you can't control. Queen Heart rules Wonderland. We must obey. I'll do no such thing. Once upon a time you believed as I do. Doc's been filling your head with science and mystery. I'll have none of it. What have we done all these years if not opposing the queen? I'm allowed to have my own opinion. Alice yanked her arm free and whirled away. What will Hart do? Cut off my head? She glanced back. Rabbit blanched whiter than snow, even whiter than his prematurely white curls sticking up in honor of the rabbit who bequeathed his nickname. Don't say that. Don't even joke about it. You remember what happened. Rabbit lowered his head and pressed his lips near her ear. We are not the only ones on board anymore. Doc's not one of us. Anything you say to him, you'd better be ready to stand trial for. Hart already hates you. There's my friend. I thought I'd lost you. She patted Rabbit's arm. So that's an excerpt from Madness in Wonderland by Tabitha Bouldin. And let me read to you. We actually talked about Lost in Wonderland, which is the sequel. And it's not out yet, so I can't give you a little reading from that. But here is the description from Lost in Wonderland. Let me get the cover for you. Here is Lost in Wonderland. It comes out March of 2023. And here is the back cover of what Lost in Wonderland is about. So it's a continuation. When you make a deal with evil, be prepared for the consequences. When a metal dragon kidnaps Alice, Hatter gathers the troops and charges off to rescue her. If only things were so uncomplicated. In the Ivory Kingdom, they find upheaval of the worst kind, all heading to civil war spearheaded by a man known as the Bandersnatch. Turmoil and terror of fighting against a giant wolf, the Bandersnatch is bad enough, but when the Ivory Queen's secrets are exposed, Hatter and Alice face off in a battle of wills and points of view. How can Alice trust a woman who deceived them? Why can't Hatter see the bigger picture? If they don't reconcile their differences, more could be risk than the Ivory Kingdom. More questions than answers bombard them in their quest for truth and freedom for all. Who is stealing children? What dark secret overshadows the Ivory Kingdom? Can they avoid the Bandersnatch's clutches? And most important of all, who can they trust? So go ahead and click over to Behind the Story to get that full interview with Tabitha Bouldin. So comment below, tell me what your favorite fairy tale retelling is, if you've ever read steampunk, and what you think so far of Alice in Madness in Wonderland.